Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to another episode of Coptic Youth Radio Hour in association with CYC Tuned In here on 92.3 FM, 3ZZZ. Your host, Mock Risk, on the program today. We got Matt Yunan and we've got David Elias.
How's it going? How are you going?
You're up and about today, Dave.
I'm a bit out of it, to be honest.
He's alright.
Yeah. On the program, we've got a discussion about the end of times and signs of the end of times, and it's David's favorite topic. So we thought we'd wake him up with that topic. And on our second social topic, we talk about the term youth and what defines the term youth. We got the Pope visiting us soon, and so yeah, he's got a youth meeting coming up, and we're gonna talk about a little bit about that. Also, we've got some nice, beautiful hymns, and a nice little CYC segment. As always, you can subscribe to our program on iTunes. If you search for Coptic Youth Radio on iTunes, you'll find us. Make sure to subscribe, get the latest episodes. We're also on SoundCloud, and if you haven't done so already, please like our Facebook page, 92.3 FM, 3ZZZ, Coptic Youth. That's it from me for now, but stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Back here on Coptic Youth Radio with Maddie and Davo. We wanted to quickly talk about the end of the world, end of times. It's one of David's passionate subjects. He always loves to talk about this. I like talking about it with him, and we always come up with ideas and theories and where we are in the grand scheme of things. And Maddie, you can join in as well. And Dave, what do you?
Well,
do you think?
It's so obvious. In the gospel, Jesus talks about how because of lawlessness, the love of many will grow cold. And if you just speculate the difference between now and beforehand in the world, you can see obviously how it's the love has very, very, very much grown cold. The love between people in general, between neighbours, between friends, what people do these days compared to what people used to do back in the day. I had a teacher once who told me, he was in high school, he told me, for fun, we used to put a bottle cap on the train track and wait for the train to come to break the bottle cap in half. And that was their fun. That's all the fun they needed. And that was the love. The love is what carried the rest, you know.
Now we've got iPads and all the kids have mobile phones.
Exactly. I don't blame technology. I blame the love of many will grow cold. That's just the way it is in the form of the world.
So you think it was inevitable?
I think it's inevitable. I think that the evil in the world is so much these days that the end is very much near, and we're drawing near to the end.
But where does that come from, Dave?
So there's a couple of sources that say that the end is near. One is Saint Malachi, who's from the Catholic Church, and he wrote a list of phrases which signify the popes. It's called the prophecy of the popes, and he says pretty much that the Pope now, this Pope is the last Pope, and
Pope Francis.
Pope Francis, yeah. And in the end times, of the dreadful judge will judge the world, and that was the end of all these phrases that he made for each Pope, and each phrase he made for each Pope came true.
So what happens if, in 20 years' time or whatever it is, we have a different Pope?
Well, that's the thing. According to Saint Malachi, we're not going to have a different Pope. But everything that you see in the world today, like, for example, you have ISIS, and you have all the killings that they're doing these days, and you have how people can be watching TV and not care about anyone or not have a care.
But, okay, we can go back and look at the time of Hitler, World War II, World War One. You don't think at that time people were saying this is the end of the world, life can't go on, and yet
Well, yeah,
60 years later we're still here. Kind of
yeah.
thing.
I still think there was still a bit more love then. There was still a bit more love if you read the books of people back then and journals of people during the war, soldiers that they wrote back to home, etc. It's still a bit more love than there is now. Now there's a bit more coldness in the world, I feel. And yeah, and there's heaps of sources where you can go back on and read people's journals and people's diaries, people's the what they've been through. It just shows that there was more of a brotherhood, among the soldiers, more of a brotherhood among the men, your countrymen, etc.
I agree. I think in a way you both make pretty valid points. You're saying that the love of many people have grown cold, and that's what the Bible says will happen before the end of the world. You're saying, Mick, that, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're saying, well, it's all the same argument could be said about previous wars and things that have happened over time, over history, and you both make really valid points. I guess my question is, let's say if we go with David's argument that it is that the end of the time is near, how do we know that it's near? Because the Bible clearly says, Jesus says, no man knows, not even the Son of Man, and no angels, no one knows when the time will be. He says he gives us signs, and you're right, and these signs are appearing. There's bloodshed, there's people killing each other, there's the love of many are growing cold. There's a lot more angst and a lot more. The Bible clearly says that even like a mother and will be against her daughter and a son against his father and vice versa. And you see that there's court cases where families are torn apart because of things. And all those prophecies that Jesus said and things that are happening in Revelation or written in the book of Revelation are occurring. Like the mark of the beast, where it says in Revelation,
it's going to be on the head or the forearm.
And there are things in the world now where people are getting microchipped, and
but that's not common.
But it's happening, right? So is it? The question is it just a matter of time before we all get microchipped, for example? And if we don't get microchipped, then is that what the thing is referring to, or is the mark of the beast something completely different? Is it like these Islamic terrorists want the world to be Muslim? Is that what it is? Is it something completely different? Is it symbolic of something that we're not understanding, or is it that fact that it is the microchip? We don't know. And how do you know what it is?
First I want to say what you said about we don't know. The Jesus actually said we don't know the day nor the hour, but we do know the times. We do know the times, the general times that we're in, and as I said, looking at just the fact that there's less love, it shows that the time is near, and we know that the world is always getting worse. It's never getting better, because in 1 Corinthians 7:31, 31 says, for the form of this world is passing away. So it's always passing away. It's always getting worse. The form of the world, the form of what the world is diminishing.
Yeah, but how do we know this isn't stage 1 of getting worse, and there's another 5 stages?
It could be.
It could get worse.
You're absolutely right, and it could be a lot worse. And there's the verse that Jesus says, only the elect will be saved. So he's already prophesied that there will be a lot of people who will deny him, whose faith will grow cold, whose love for him will go cold, and that's happening.
I wanted to get back to your point of when do we know, or but I just want to say this, should we know? Say for example, your house is going to get robbed. If you know the time, you're going to stop the robber, but that never happens. Maybe I don't think we are supposed to know. I think that's the whole element of being ready and being faithful to the end.
Absolutely, I agree, Mick, and that's what Jesus tells us. He says, in the prophecy, in the Gospel of Saint Luke, in the second service of the midnight prayer, and he's talking about we need to be ready at all times, and it says, just like a thief, like that exact example, like a thief comes in the middle of the night. We always need to be, and he says, what I say to you, I say to all. It might be in the second service or the third service of the midnight prayer. I'm not too sure, but he says, and what I say to you, I say to all. Watch. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. We always need to be ready, because we don't know what's going to happen. We could walk out of here right now and get hit by a car, and that could be the end of our world. The end of our life here on earth is the end of our world, like here on earth. Are we ready? And the question is, are we ready to go to heaven?
The one thing I've realized personally, so when I was I realized when I was young, there's a lot more kids out on the street. There's a lot more kids playing together. There's a lot more friendly environment at school. There was just a different.
It's a bit more fearful now.
Yeah, now people are pretty much isolated within their homes, etc. Like it's just a different. It's a different world that for me, just personally what I see. So that's just one for me, a sign of the times that it really is getting worse. The form of the world is passing away.
Yeah, absolutely. It used to be safe to go out and play on the street. Now there's crime everywhere, unfortunately, and it's really sad.
Yeah, I want to say one of the verses from the Bible. It says, "But know this: in the last days, perilous times will come. For men will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, unloving, unforgiving, slanderers, etc." So it's all these things you can see with people in the world these days, the very, very, very worldly people. It's very, very hard to very, very hard to get along with them or talk to them, or it's very isolated. Even if you go to the shopping center, everyone's isolated. Like, for example, you have the self checkouts. That's an example of people.
That's convenience.
Yeah,
I think that's more of convenience.
I think it's more of people just relying on themselves, and they don't want to have anything to do with others. That's something.
But is that a poor reflection of technology advancements?
Like, that's what I'm saying. That's what I was saying at the start. It's not technology that the problem is. It's the world that's the problem.
It's how we use technology.
No, it's the world. It's the world that's saying you can just be by yourself and have fun. Be by yourself and work. Be by yourself and shop. Be by yourself and do things. Be by yourself and be.
But why is being by yourself necessarily a bad thing?
Because
there's monks and nuns that are by themselves. There's people living holy, righteous lives that are by themselves, or in solitude, or whatever it is. But that doesn't necessarily mean being by yourself is a bad thing,
because
right?
It says here, without self-control, brutal, despisers of good, traitors, headstrong. So headstrong is people can be by themselves, and like everyone gets lonely if you're by yourself or whatever. But being headstrong can ruin a whole relationship, ruin a family, break. Just because they're headstrong, they're very mentally strong.
Very stubborn.
Yeah, very stubborn.
So you're saying that a reflection of love is not there when someone's by themselves, or?
Yeah, when someone's headstrong, like they're very adamant, or they're very individual. They're very individualistic. I'm just by myself. I don't need anyone, etc.
But okay, so. All right, so you're saying being stubborn in wrong things, because someone could be stubborn, someone could be strong, like someone could be headstrong in their faith. Like let's say someone, just for an example, let's say Tom has a group of friends.
Yeah.
His group of friends, trying to lead him down the wrong path, for example, and he's headstrong that he doesn't want to do that. That's a good thing.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
So
that's
why
different.
is that,
like St. Paul says, gird the loins of your mind. But that's very different that's doing something, getting up and doing something, rather than being headstrong and being. What do you think headstrong means here in this passage? So it says, traitors, headstrong, haughty, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. So headstrong's got to do with something evil, got to do with something bad.
Look, I know where you're coming from.
Yeah.
But I wanted to give my sort of opinion. I feel like maybe sometimes it's not mentioned, the date or when the time of the hour is, because, and this is my hammered theory, is that we're going to be responsible of destroying the earth.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So it's like maybe God never gave us the time because we as a human race will destroy the earth, and then that's when we're gonna be like cry out to our Lord and Savior, like, please Lord, like, we're in dire straits here, you need to help us. And that was when we talked about Sodom and Gomorrah, and like how the God was saying that he heard the cries of the people. So there was righteous people in Sodom and Gomorrah at the time, or the Lot's family, who were praying and saying like something needs to happen here, and then that's when God came and like took judgment on them. I think maybe we might have that sort of same situation.
You're saying we're gonna have like a nuclear war?
But I don't know, nuclear war or whatever, but I don't know what it's going to be. But I feel like it's going to be at a time when it's like it's a bit worse than what it is at the moment. That's just my personal.
There's one thing that I heard in Revelations that talks about the waters, and they will turn into wormwood. And I heard wormwood's another word for it's a place in Russia called Wormwood, and it's where they had a nuclear bomb or nuclear reactor fallout. So that means all the waters became contaminated by this nuclear reactor, and everyone in that area died because of this.
When was this?
This was the 1960s. It's Chernobyl. City was called Chernobyl, but I heard there's another place called, it was Chernobyl or another place called Wormwood. So what? And this Wormwood was contaminated by the nuclear waters and the nuclear blast or nuclear outlet, and it caused death all around the area.
Look, it's a really fascinating topic, and we can talk about this for hours, to be honest. But yeah, let us know what you guys think on our Facebook page.
I'm just Mick, I'm just trying to check something. Sorry.
Maybe we'll save it for the next segment because we're running out of time.
I was just trying to, just for our audience, just to clarify whether it was the second service or the third service of the midnight prayer. Sorry. I'll just be really quick. Sorry.
John, we'll just save it. Matt will be back to let you know after the break.
Okay. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure it was the second. Okay, guys, welcome back. And for those of you who just joined us, you're watching Tuned In on CYC, which is in association with the Coptic Youth Radio program on radio 3ZZZ 92.3 FM. So just to clarify, from following on from our last conversation about the end of the world, the passage I was referring to was from the Gospel of St. Luke, chapter 12, verses 32 to 64, which is also mentioned in the third service. So I wasn't sure if it was the second or third, but it's actually the third service of the midnight prayer of the Coptic Agbeya. And Jesus says, and he's talking about like a thief and being prepared, like if you were prepared so your house wouldn't get broken into, like Michael was sharing with us earlier. And it says, blessed are those servants whom their master when he comes will find them. Surely I say to you that he shall gird himself and have them sit down to eat, and will come and serve them. And if he shall come in the second watch or come in the third watch and find them so, blessed are those servants. But know this, that if the master of the house had known what hour the thief would have come, he would have watched and not have allowed his house to be broken into. You therefore be ready also, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour when you do not expect. So it just reiterates that passage that we always need to be ready, because we don't know when the end of the world will be, or when the end of our lives will be.
Well, thanks for that, Matt.
No worries.
The topic we wanted to discuss in our second social topic, the Pope's coming soon, his visit, and we've got to register, so everyone has to get their IDs, and we need to click that we're attending these special events. And one event is the youth meeting, the YIC meeting that we have here in Melbourne, and that is targeted. And what I mean by targeted is there's an age restriction. So what was the age? It's from 16 to 35. Yeah, so that's the age restriction. So anyone older than 35 will not be allowed to enter the youth meeting, the YIC meeting with His Holiness. So what we wanted to discuss was what defines the term youth. How are we youth? What's the age restriction on being a youth member?
I still say it's when you get married. You stop becoming a youth when you get married. Just because of the fact that no one cares anymore about it.
What's that supposed to mean, Dave? Like, so you're saying, if someone's a little bit older but not married and still single, does that mean they're not youth?
Well, within the church, within the realm of the church and the services of the church, or what the church offers, it's offering the meeting just to people who it's offering the meeting to people that want to connect and talk to each other, and youth that are single, usually single.
Well, why?
Yeah, but there's singles who are over the age of 35 as well.
That's why. Well, that's what I'm saying.
And why does it have to only be targeted towards singles? Like, I'm married now, and if I want to attend, why can't I attend?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm against. I'm saying what I'm saying is, it shouldn't matter how old you are. It should just matter that you're single. Not the fact that you're 35, 36 or...
No, but how about if you're married and you still want to go to this YIC meeting?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, what if someone's 21 and they're married? Like,
they're still classified as youth and they can go to the meeting.
Well, that's what sucks about this 16 to 35 time frame. I think...
Age frame.
Yeah, age frame. Like, I think this meeting is pretty much done for the youth that aren't married, that still haven't got married yet, and... youth that are married, well, no one cares.
But I don't think that's right, Dave.
Well,
with all due respect, so what you're saying is, if you're single and you want to meet someone, you can go to these meetings. But if you're not single, you're not interested in meeting someone.
Well, that's what the meeting's there for.
That can't be right, Dave.
That's what the meeting's there for.
So what if there's young people that want to follow the monastic pathway?
For example, we even have in St. Mary's Church, we have a meeting just for the over 25s. So that's a meeting just for the over 25s, not married. Usually.
No, hang on. Look. No, but it's not targeted to only single people.
But it's just for over 25s for them just to get to know each other.
But not necessarily, Dave.
Listen, well, that's what it is. It is what it is.
The term youth. How is there a limit on it?
That's my question. I think I agree with your question. I think it's a really valid question. Is there an age frame? Is there a limit? What defines a youth?
Very good question.
Because someone could be very young at heart. Someone could be old as an age number. They could be, considered old by society's definition.
But have a young heart.
Okay.
Or a mature person. But, does that mean they're not youth? They could be the fittest person around. Does that mean they're not youth?
The word youth means the period between childhood and adult age. So what here in this country we see adult age as it's like 18.
Exactly. So what that means
that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense, that meaning.
So youth is from 13 to 18. That's what youth is.
Yeah.
So, but in our church, we sort of tend to extend that age bracket.
We tend to sort of start it from that age bracket.
Well, it seems like we've set a limit of 35, 16 to 35. But
since when did we have a limit?
Well, I don't know.
And that's
that's true. Yeah,
we've never had a limit.
I think the biggest sort of mistake was maybe we put that age limit in there. I think, or say that it is a youth meeting. Maybe say it's a meeting with the Pope, or so everyone can be invited, unless it's targeted towards that group of people who are maybe trying to look for a life partner or get to the next stage of their life, or maybe there's a targeted message to people that are aged 16 to 35.
Okay, so let me ask you. Let's say there's someone single that's 37, 38, 39 even, whatever, 40, whatever, but they're single. Whatever circumstances they've faced in their life, maybe they've had bad experience after bad experience after bad experience, or they just haven't met the right person. Whatever it is. But let's say they want to meet someone. So you're saying they can't attend this meeting just because...
I'm not saying anything.
Their age?
Listen, I'm not saying anything. I'm just like trying to understand where the church is coming from by giving that time frame, that age bracket between 16 to 35. Like, what are they trying to say? That the people between that age limit, the meeting or the talk is going to be targeted to those people? Like, why can't more older people or even younger people go to this?
I'm absolutely agreeing with you. Why can't more older people, or like you said, well, what defines that age limit? And I think that's a really valid question. I do think there needs to be some sort of system, and I agree, and I think it needs to be fair and equitable. So if they apply it to one person, they've got to apply it to everyone. However, and that's just to be organised and not chaotic. But having said that, where do we draw the line?
I think there's a difference between youth and adult age.
Well, yeah, but someone like you and I, are we adults? I think we're mature adults.
I think,
but we're also considered youth, right?
I think once you hit your 30s, I think maybe that's your young adult. Or like, actually no, I'm not sure, to be honest.
Yeah, it's very much in the spirit of the person, how young his spirit is. Someone can have a very young spirit about him. He can have a very young spirit, a real go-getter. Someone's
that would mean I'm like 13 years old, I think.
Okay, so what you're saying is, if they consider themselves youth, then they're youth. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying I'm still sticking to the fact that they're not married, because actually what I heard is that these meetings were made for people who are not married.
What do you mean? But that can't be right, Dave. Like,
that's
surely,
what I heard.
Surely, I mean, if that is the case, then it beckons the question: are we doing enough for the married people? Are we doing enough for the young married couples in this society, in the community?
For the married couples?
Well, you listen. You're the only married one here, so we can't really
look. I admit,
from what I see in the Egyptian in the community that we're in,
and there is a one flesh fellowship meeting.
They don't care. Oh, is there?
Yeah, at St George's they do it once a month. They're thinking of doing it fortnightly, and that would be great. It's a it's a married couples meeting for all married couples to attend.
There you go.
It's really beneficial, and they talk about different topics, and I think it's fantastic. The guys that run it are doing an awesome job. Having said that, though, is there enough across the board? Is there enough?
To be honest, I feel like there's not a lot of services for people who are over the age of 35 who are single. There's not a lot of. There's not maybe. I'm not sure, but I'm to be honest, I can't really comment. But I'm just, in my opinion, I think that maybe there's not a lot of services targeted for people who are over the age of 35 and who are single, or over the age of 30 and who are single. That's what I think.
Okay, so how do we address that, Mick?
Go to your local priest and tell him, Abuna, let's start a meeting or start something for these for the guys.
But I think it goes back to David's, that perception or that connotation that if there is a meeting, like Dave said, the over 25 meeting at St Mary's, where it was initially designed for that older age group, not for them to meet each other and get married, but just because there was a big gap. There was the younger youth meeting, the regular youth meeting, where people who were attending that were new, just fresh out of, at uni students who are 18, 19, maybe 20, 21 years old, and then there's these older youth who are 29, 30, 31, 32 plus, and there's that big gap. Some things that they'll talk about in that meeting are no longer relevant to people who are maybe slightly older, slightly more mature.
Well, does that mean do we need...
So the meeting was designed just to tailor to them, to that group, to that age group. But it wasn't designed for them to necessarily... And great, if they do meet each other in those meetings and they, eventually get married, that's fantastic. But it's not designed for that. And that's sometimes, unfortunately, the reason why people don't attend is because they think, oh, well, if I go to that meeting, there's that perception that I want to get married. And I don't want to get married or whatever, And that's the sad reality, is that we end up stereotyping and we end up, putting labels and stuff on things when it shouldn't be like that. It should be a bit more free.
I think maybe it's time our church has two meetings, one a youth meeting and one a young adults meeting. So maybe we can have one after the other or something, or one on 2 different days, because I know at St. Mark's we only have the one youth meeting. And you're right, there's people there who are 18, 19 years old, and then there's hardly any more 28 or 29 year olds that still attend it, who are single or married, either of them. Like maybe I feel maybe we're at a stage in the church where there's more people coming through the church, and like our generation's growing up, and maybe we need to have a certain meeting, 2 separate ones. But it's a lot of work, because to organize one youth meeting, it takes a lot of work and effort to organize that. So it needs more people. It needs people who are willing to serve and who are wanting to help out, and who are feeling that there's a need for this service. So, yeah.
It's interesting. It really is.
Yeah, so that's... but, yeah, hopefully they can change that maybe when the Pope comes. Maybe get everyone to come, because I think it's going to be a really important
and it's
meeting.
really beneficial.
Yeah.
And I think...
you don't want... we want to be able to attend every meeting that the Pope has. Like when Pope Shenouda came, there was nothing like this, any age restrictions or anything like that. We had one meeting and everyone was there.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's being done for safety reasons as well, and just to be organised and not chaotic. It's an interesting aspect that I think, just the Pope thing aside, like just in general in our community, are we doing enough for that older age group? And is there enough being done? And are we tailoring to their needs? Or is everything just targeted at younger youth, and then we're neglecting some older youth?
Yeah.
And are we neglecting, and then it becomes a neglect moving older as well, to our elderly community. We've got a hostel in Hallam, which is fantastic. God bless them, they're doing an amazing job. It's been around for years, and the hostel is doing really well. But that's in Hallam. It's serving the people in the east and suburbs. But what are we doing towards the other side of town? Do we need to do more?
That's a good point.
And can we do more?
That's a really good point.
Because these people have done great things for our community over time, and it should be our time to repay them and support them.
Yeah, that's true. Hopefully we can sort of pray and let God show His ways and His wisdom, and hopefully we can have more youth step up in these type of services to run some of these services. Stay tuned. And that's all the time we have for you guys. Thanks again for joining us. Thanks, Matt, for coming in.
No worries.
You're a legend. Davo, you're a legend.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks for coming in. Always enjoying you guys come in. As always, you can subscribe to our podcast. Search for us on iTunes, Coptic Youth Radio. And we're also on SoundCloud. And catch us on Facebook, 92.3 FM, 3ZZZ Coptic Youth. That's it from us here in Melbourne, through 3ZZZ Studios. Stay tuned for the following program, and see you guys next week.
Take care and God bless.
Muy